In this episode, I wanted to look at how we can use the man command to view manual pages for various commands, configuration files, and system libraries. So what is the man command and how do we use it? Well, let's run man at the terminal without any options or arguments. You will see that it says, what man page do you want? So let's say that we wanted to look at the manual page for the ls command. Let's type man ls. And here we're presented with the manual page for the ls command. While we are taking a look at the man page, you will notice down at the bottom that there is some text highlighted. If you need to access the help page, you can hit the letter H, or if you need to quit, you hit the letter Q. You can also navigate around these manual pages by using the up and down arrows or page up and down. That is essentially the man command in a nutshell, but I wanted to show you a couple other features too. Let's take a look at the manual page for the man command itself. We can do this by running man. The one thing that I wanted to highlight is that there are different manual pages for user and admin commands, configuration files, system libraries, amongst other things. This is talked about down here, and each of these different types of man pages are identified by a given section number. So for example, section 1 covers common userland commands, things like ls and man. If you're going to be doing some programming, sections 2 and 3 might come in handy, as they cover system and library calls. Section 5 talks about configuration files, and section 8 is for sysadmin type commands. The reason I wanted to highlight manual page sections is because you could look at a manual page and not know there is actually additional information available just under a different section. Let's scroll down a bit and look at some examples. We already covered this example where we looked at the manual page for the ls command. One helpful option is using the -k switch to search manual page descriptions. This can be really handy for finding manual pages. So let's say we wanted to search all man page descriptions for anything about the password command. Let's run man-k password, and we are returned a listing of the results matching our query. You will notice partway down here that we have several entries for the password command. The first entry with the 1 beside it denotes that this is the manual page for section number 1. Let's jump back to the man page for the man command, where we talked about sections for a minute. So the 1 indicated in our search results means that the manual page is for section number 1, and section 1 deals with executable programs or shell commands. Let's jump back to our search results for a second. Let's have a look at the password entry with the 5 beside it, where it says the password file. Again, let's jump back to the manual page for the man command so that we can see what 5 correlates to. Section 5 talks about file formats and conventions, basically syntax for configuration files. Okay, so now that we know what the search results mean, how do we use the different manual pages in practice? Well, by default, when you run the man command, you're always given the first manual page that exists. In this instance, we have 2 manual pages for the password command, so if we type man password, we'll be given section number 1. But how do we access section number 5? Let's run man password. You will see that we're given the manual page for the password command, which can be used to change a user's password. You will notice up in the top left-hand corner that it says password and then the number 1. This indicates that the manual page is actually for section 1. So you might be wondering, how do we view the different manual page sections? It's pretty easy. We just need to pass the section number to the man command. In the previous command, we just typed man password. But we could have typed man1 password. This tells man to give us section 1. So let's replace the 1 here with 5 to indicate to the man command that we actually want the manual page for section 5 of the password command. We're now given the password configuration file manual page. You will also notice that up in the left-hand corner it now says password and then the number 5 to indicate what section we're actually looking at. So hopefully you know a little bit more about the man command, at least enough that you can look at the various manual pages. The search function is also really handy, in that you might have just typed man password and not know that there is actually an additional configuration manual page too. So the next time you're taking a look at manual pages, make sure you keep an eye out for manual page sections too. Alright, that concludes this episode. Thanks for watching. If you would like to get notified about future episodes, please subscribe to my mailing list. You can do this by going to the Get Notified link in the header and entering your email address. Have questions, comments, or concerns about this episode? What about episode ideas? I'd love to hear your feedback, either good or bad. Shoot me an email, justin@sysadmincasts.com.